my fellow mobile gamers? In today's video, we have our Velangort Fortress guide because people just did not know what to do in this new battle mode. So I'm going to go over it just so that we are all prepared next Tuesday. The first thing we have is right here, there are two brackets. You have your first bracket right here. It says Velangort 1, Velangort 2. Again, this decides based on the guild's combat power. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this is so important, you want to check this because only the top 2 guilds in the bracket will do battle at the heart boss. And that is pretty much how you win the server versus server battle. So right here, for example, Alliance and Chap, whatever this name is called, I can't speak Brazilian, but these two are the top right now. So they would be the ones battling for the heart boss, representing my server that I'm in. And then if we go over to bracket 2, it'd be Demigods and Exalted. They would be the two representing for bracket 2. The other people's job, right? 300, Asylum, Legendary Kings, blah, 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 blah. Their job is to destroy the bosses in the other fortresses to give buffs to their top 2 guilds. Right, so I'm gonna throw up some screenshots and just go over everything. When we first start the match, it will say Velangort Fortress 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left-hand side right here, represented in this number 1 next to it. You'll see there's 4 of them, like 4 chambers. And then at the bottom, it says the heart. The heart doesn't open up yet, so everyone's job right now is to just hunt these elite, but I wouldn't even call them necessarily like bosses. They're kind of like smaller bosses. We're just gonna call these like elite bosses for now. So as you can see, there's 20 elite bosses in each fortress, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to go through as a server and destroy as many of those bosses as you can. Now this is all the guilds, not just the top 2, like literally all the guilds that are participating want to go and do this, because the more of these boss monsters that you kill, that will give you your PvP buff. Right now, that is represented in number 2 over here. You'll see it says PvE buff, PvP buff. The more of these boss monsters you kill in the first round, this opening part, the more you'll see that PvP buff increase. Now, the other thing you want to do is you also want to PvP while you're taking down these elite bosses, right? So by killing someone from the other server that you're going against, it will net you a PvE buff, which means you will do more damage to the bosses, which is so important, right? So it's, you know, hand in hand. You want to be killing the bosses, but you also want to be killing your opponents. But you also have to be careful because you don't just want to run in there and think, you know, you could take out a whole squad, because for every time one of your players dies from your server, remember, you're giving them buffs now, right? It's counting as a kill. So you want to kill them, but you also want to be careful not to feed them points. So that is super important. Now we're going to go over to the next slide right here. Now that's like the beginning. I think that lasts like 10 minutes. I don't exactly know the time. I'm not exactly sure. I think it lasts like 9 or 10 minutes. Then once that is over, then the big stuff starts happening. So now we get the big bosses for Fortress 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the heart boss will spawn. Now, as you can see, I'm just going to briefly mention this. Number 4 right here is highlighted. This is where you can buy those buffs. So we have potions. These potions are exclusive for the fortress battle that we're in right now. They do not last outside the battle. They last, I believe, 5 minutes long, and they cost diamonds. It depends on what you want to do. If you really want to spend your diamonds, it's up to you. There is a attack buff, a defensive buff, and an HP buff, represented in the colors red for attack, blue for defense, green for HP. Now we're going to look at box 1 right here. This is the top bosses. Their HP is ridiculous. This is kind of like Refuge of the Dead B3 boss. You know, they just have ridiculous amount of health. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to pick one of these and just focus and destroy that boss, because the buffs you will get are going to be based on your team's contribution. If you are one of the top 2 guilds, so for us it would be Alliance or Chap, they need to immediately move to the heart boss. All right, they need to go. As soon as the heart boss opens, they need to be in that fortress looking for the heart boss. Now, the heart boss spawns 3 different times, and he moves around the heart chamber, I'm going to call it. So you're going to have to look for him. He's not just going to sit there in one spot. He's going to be there for a while for the first round. Then the second round starts, and he moves somewhere else. So then you got to go around and find him again. The thing is, the top 2 guilds, if they don't go to the heart boss, then, you know, your server's just going to lose. They can still stay in these other fortresses. That's the issue. People didn't know. The top 2 guilds didn't know to go to the heart boss. That is their job. They need to go there. No one else can go. If you're 3rd guild, 4th guild, 5th guild, you cannot go to the heart boss. Only the top 2 guilds can from your server. So it is their responsibility to move and start killing that boss, because that determines whether you win or lose the whole server versus server battle. So that's what they need to immediately do. So now what the other guilds are going to do is you're going to pick one of these areas and you're all going to focus the boss and destroy it. Now, I highly recommend that everyone moves as a group, as a team. I mean, you want to have everyone in your server coordinate, and it's hard. You know, it's hard because people want to do their own things. There's so many people in my server who have ginormous egos and they think they could do everything and they don't want to cooperate. So it really comes down to people like being humble, you know, and just doing, you know, working as a team. So that's what you have to do as a guild, as a whole guild and server. You guys need to all come together, pick one of these fortresses, and absolutely dominate the boss. Because you do not get the buff until you kill that boss. I mean, it doesn't matter if you look over and you see that, you know, you guys are spread out and maybe the other server has a little bit more contribution on 2 or 3 of them as opposed to you. Like, it doesn't matter until the boss is killed, right? You don't get that buff for your top 2 guilds until you kill that boss. So that's super important. You want to kill one boss, at least kill one boss, right? So it's like they could have more contribution in 3 of these, but if they don't kill the boss, they're not really doing anything, right? While your whole server could be in the first fortress and you could take down the first boss and you could have 100% contribution because the other server was too busy spread out in 2, 3, and 4, and they didn't really kill the bosses because they got them all spread out, so they're barely doing any damage. Your server goes, they kill the first boss, bam, that is going to be a huge buff for your number 1 and number 2 guilds at the heart boss. So that's what it's all about. It's all about the supporting guilds killing off these big bosses to give your top 2 guilds support, aka buffs, so that they can have a better chance to kill the heart boss or do more contribution, because it is 3 rounds based on contribution. Not that complicated, but a lot of people just don't understand. It's a lot of coordination, and that's the biggest problem with this. If you have people who just want to do their own thing and they don't want to listen and they're hard-headed, and you know what I mean, you're not going to have fun. This is 100%. You have to have a good server of people who want to cooperate. If you have people who just want to do their own thing, run around and not listen, like my server, you're not going to have fun. It's going to be like, it's not going to be fun. So that is what it is. That is what, hopefully you guys and girls understand a little bit better. All the bosses that are dead will respawn for the new round. So for round 2, you'll get all new bosses. For round 3, you'll get all new bosses. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So it's actually better to just stay and just focus on one boss. Kill that boss as fast as you can. It's basically like a rush, a time trial. Who can kill the bosses faster, right? That's pretty much what it is. So as a server, come together, kill the bosses faster than the other server to get your top 2 guilds the buffs that they need to take down the heart boss. Now, another thing that I have to mention is the buff is based on the server's contribution points. So if you have like 100% contribution points for taking down a boss, that is going to increase the buff for your top 2 guilds. And it also lasts 5 minutes long. So if you could take down Fortress 1 and Fortress 2, let's say we take down 2 Fortress bosses, that means you're going to get 5 minutes each separated. Then it's not going to be stacked as 10 together. It's going to be 5 minutes for Fortress 1 buff and then 5 minutes for Fortress B buff or Fortress 2 buff. But that is it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you have a better understanding. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more A3 Still Live videos. I love y'all. Stay happy, stay safe, my friends. Peace.